Have you been looking into political philosophy? Have you?
I have no question. I haven't either. I normally try.
Oh, no, that's good. That's fine. I guess we can get started on form of government. Like, what do you guys think is the best form of government? Democracy, oligarchy, authoritarian. There's many different forms. Anarchy.
Authoritarian.
You think authoritarian?
Yeah.
Why is that?
With an ideal ruler, it seems the most efficient. Change can happen at the fastest rate. It's the best. Democracy, you're giving a ton of idiots. They don't have all the information to answer the questions. What do you think?
I lean anarchy. I'm very libertarian.
You mean anarchy?
Anarchy.
Why anarchy? That's crazy. So I can just murder you.
Yeah. It's about individuals having their choice over their own lives. So I don't believe in a social contract. I don't think that individuals within a society give their own wills to that society for protection, for security, and they have to give up certain liberties. I don't believe in that. I think instead we are indoctrinated into the society, we're born into it, we are forced into it, and there's no escape. And essentially it's not a contract anymore, it's a gun pointed to your head and said, you have to sign this.
So an anarchical government would be very focused on individual freedoms with no sort of structures involved.
No government at all, yeah.
There would be no innovation.
You don't think people would innovate, like form their own groups and societies would innovate and
Other groups would come and kill you and steal your stuff.
It'd be pretty much like whoever forms the most power is like absolute.
A government would essentially be created in a way.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't be government in the same sense that government is based though. It wouldn't be for law and order, it would be for like a specific purpose. Like there would be one set of people, like a tribe, dedicated to doing things, like creating like a dam or something. And then there would be another group of people dedicated towards like creating like a big building or something.
Okay, so the strongest
It's
groups
like
of
corporations.
people are gonna have control over everyone else, and those strongest groups, like,
Well, but
they can be anyone
everyone else has also weapons, they can resist that strongest group.
if they're strong enough.
Yeah.
It's literally just survival of the strongest.
It's survival of the strong.
Like we're going back to our animal days.
Do you think Universalism would be the strongest group?
I think it's possible.
What sort of groups, if we suddenly transition to an anarchy government, do you think would form as powerful like coalitions?
The Proud Boys, I think, would be one.
Proud.
No, I definitely think so because they're one, very nationalist, they're very white supremacist, and two, they have military training. They're oftentimes veterans. They have guns. They have weapons. They're very much militarized. So I think they would take power quite a bit. They're not very big, but in certain areas they would be the dominating faction.
Oh, they would just wipe people out.
This is so nonsensical.
What?
It's so like because like there's just like well first off like are you saying you take the current world as it is now and suddenly you abolish all government structures and so now it's anarchy?
Yeah.
If you're going in that way,
Uh,
you just have rich people that are just going to like economic structures stay in place. You're just gonna have rich people that are gonna people still need money to pay for things. You're
Wait,
gonna have
why
rich
does money matter anymore? Because money is backed by the government.
But there's still going to be some type of like currency or function. Like if the government suddenly devolved or whatever, rich people would purchase some type of currency or whatever.
I'd say go back to either gold, which I think is more unlikely because gold doesn't have a use, or something like barley or wheat. You know, something that actually has a use.
Or there's not one central
Currency.
thing.
So what I'm saying is I
Currency.
think things wouldn't collapse immediately and like I mean and just say like anarchy. I mean first off it's like what like metric are you even using to say like one form of government is better than the other form of government, right? Like if you say anarchy is the best form of government, is the metric that you're using like just like like human free will? Like is it what is it? It can't be innovation, and it certainly can't be like stability, because like that there's no, I don't know, I haven't seen any paper that's come out that said that human innovation and excellence would be better in anarchical society.
You don't think so, really?
Absolutely not. I mean, because you have people form, like, it would just be like people would form violent gangs and go after and try to steal from one another. I mean, that's naturally what would happen to a lot of people. People would be so concerned about this is like the hierarchy of needs, but like people would be so concerned about like their security and their safety that they wouldn't have even time to think about like these questions that we're pondering right now. Like the whole reason people have like the ability to like sit around like this and ask these questions is because we're not worried about getting bombed or shot at, or
But that
there's
assumes
a roof kick coming in. Like the whole idea is like, how do you think this building is maintained? Do you think people just like out of their own free will like want to maintain this building? Like people have to like people have to be like, no, like people are there are workers who maintain the building and they have particular rights, with their employer and like all these types of things. I mean, like all that is like government functions. So like no one would be able to do anything unless you want to like sit out in the woods and just go back to hunter gathering. But I mean, I don't know, unless you think that's a superior form to what we have today.
But it assumes that man's natural state is war. I don't think it is.
Man's natural state is a preservation of themselves.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but if no one else is violent, they won't
But
be
what do
violent.
you mean? There's people
If
violent.
everyone is gonna be
But
violent,
this is
if
so
they have
nonsense.
no
I
laws.
think you
so
would be
nonsense.
violent.
Yeah, I would be violent.
Yes.
Maybe.
To achieve your goals.
True.
I mean, it's just the birds. Like, you don't think anything's gonna happen? People are gonna go, like, steal other people's shit just because they want it? And because it's allowed?
Do you think if murder was legal, you would go out murdering people?
Some people would. I don't know about
Would
me.
you?
No, it wouldn't.
See, that's the thing. I think there'd be gangs of raiders, but small groups. It wouldn't be everyone. We're not thinking about mass destruction and mass anarchy. We're thinking about these small groups that can be dealt with by just communities gathering and shooting them.
Okay, the point is though, like, if I want something and there's no laws like dictating how I get it, I'm gonna get it in the most efficient way possible.
Okay.
Anarchy is not the best form of government.
What is
Like,
the
it's
best
just-
form of government?
It's not anarchy. I don't think like any scholar that studies this would say that is like but at least by saying like because you think in anarchy like there's gonna be more innovation. I don't see any logical chain of how there's more innovation in an anarchical society. I mean, like perhaps in like a very small isolated community where there's like agreed upon norms, but then that's a government. So I mean, the idea of anarchy, like there being no organization, no structure, no enforcement mechanisms whatsoever, and no human organization, like it just that prohibits any innovation.
What about techno-anarchy, where there are like machines that allow us to have our basic resources? There's manpower. So the problem right now with anarchy is that there's not sufficient manpower, right, to do the farming, to do to gather the water, to hunt. So we have to steal that manpower from other people who have used it. Like if someone goes out and hunts a buffalo, gets a bunch of meat, it's less manpower for me to go kill that guy and steal his
But
meat.
you're introducing
than
it,
go do
you're
myself.
changing, like you're moving the goalposts. You're saying techno anarchism. So
Sure,
you're
if I
introducing
concede-
a technology that doesn't exist yet.
If I concede regular anarchy as bad, what about techno-anarchy?
But how is the technology that's developed to help us in anarchy develop? What government structure helps develop that technology?
We'll say that anarchy comes later, after this technology has already been developed.
So technology has to be developed before the anarchy.
Yes, but would
In another
there
government structure.
be more innovation then?
What state of technology?
What is this technology? Robots?
So it's like, imagine like robots. You could say go do this, go do that.
Oh, so we're like, I mean, it's so broad that there could be so
Like
many.
imagine manpower. We have regular manpower is human manpower, right? This is robot manpower. So
Okay.
it's like another like thing sitting in a chair that you can say go do this, go do that.
So
So you can say
basically-
go hunt, go get water, and
Who's
that
paying
way.
for the robots?
Why does someone need to pay for the robots?
Because
They
someone
just
needs to make the
exist.
robots.
They just exist
spawn
at
it.
this point.
No, they just exist. Like
How are they getting electricity since it's
solar power.
They're just walking on
So we're still like, we're a pretty established society without government.
See, but my point is that,
So there's enough robots like made before the government collapses, so that the robots can just do this.
see, but the scenario is not what
Wouldn't
I'm
the robots become more efficient if you just? What I'm saying is like, if the innovation stops when the anarchy begins, couldn't you just like I feel like that's just like a logical fallacy. Like, could you just continue on whatever government structure was before the anarchy?
But I'd argue
and
that
make the robots more efficient because that's when the innovation.
more
happens.
innovation would happen after the anarchy if we reach this point. There's certain. That's why I think I don't think anarchy itself stops innovation. I think the current state that we're at, if we went into anarchy, it would. But it's not a natural facet of anarchy to stop innovation.
I don't know. It's just this is so
Like,
science fiction.
Where does innovation come from? It comes from ideas in our head and manpower in the real world. But if we have manpower available, then anyone with the idea can do it. Right now, a government can stop
But
it.
who owns the robots?
Why
Does
does
this
this?
come
It's just
from?
people.
Rishi,
own
No,
it.
if I don't own the robot, someone can just come and take my robot away.
And
then
then
I'm
you
gonna
protect your
progress.
robots, bro.
They could take your robot. Imagine every single person has like 1 or 2 robots.
But then how did that get equally distributed? Like, I don't.
Okay, just imagine a
This is
scenario
silly.
where every single person has 1 robot. This means that they don't have to use their own manpower. They can say, oh, go hunt, go fetch water, stuff like that. They don't need to steal from other people. They don't need to kill other people to get resources.
Well, because they
But
can get
they
more robots
want
and
more
more
robots.
things.
But if they try to get more robots, their other robots are gonna fight them, right?
This
Like,
is such
What?
a theoretical
This
situation.
would make a great story, but I don't know if this is a great philosophical.
Rishi, you're trying to argue why anarchical government is good, and it keeps getting so far out in specific circumstances.
Okay, what is the best form of government?
Authoritarian.
Why is that?
A lot of progress can happen if there's absolute control. Like right now, we have to wait and go through so many steps, and it's very slow, and they can't actually accomplish anything because the system itself, like, prevents itself from growing and being unchanged. Like how you're talking about how they're always so slow with the AI policies and laws compared to how fast AI is getting made. With an authoritarian
Yeah.
government, it wouldn't be such a major issue. So it'd be one man in power.
I would like to point out that that speed of which the government progresses has worked better in the past because the progression of technology has been a lot slower. We have like an exponential path. So authoritarian government would make this process a lot faster because they decide everything instantly. But are there not ways that you can make a democratic government that changes with due speed?
Well, I took a class in the winter, and someone asked at the end of the class, it was all about like the erosion of democracy and like populist leaders. And someone asked at the end of the class, they said, why should we even care about democracy? Why do we even care about protecting democracy? And she's like, well, I think through all my studies, what I have found is like democracy does the best at mitigating like the gravest consequences. Like democracy it's a slower moving machine, but it's not a machine that is going to make a fatal mistake in a quick instant. And what she was saying is, yes, obviously there are examples of authoritarian regimes. Singapore is a good example that have been able to move quickly and accurately and haven't made large mistakes. However, because there aren't enough, I don't know if checks and balances is the right way to say it, but there aren't enough sort of voices in the fold. That tends to, the leader will make a really smart decision that will, bring the country forward by a lot and very quickly. But there's also the potential that they make a very bad decision, stupid decision, that tanks the country more than a democracy could because you have all these competing voices and plans. And so I think she was like, the reason why we should care about protecting democracy, the reason why democracy does matter, is because democracy is this machine that kind of prevents against human catastrophe and large, just disastrous mistakes. And so it'll move slowly. It maybe will take a while to catch up and make the right decision, but it won't land you in a complete dystopia overnight.
Colin, you make a really good point about how democracy hasn't failed us in the past and doesn't completely go to a dystopia.
Yeah.
And Rishi, you also made a really good point. Anarchy society would be ideal if it reached certain requirements. The best form of government doesn't seem to be universal. It's based on the time and the situation that society needs. Since AI is moving faster, there may be a point where an authoritarian governments would be more beneficial than a democracy.
I think like the only time I could ever see an authoritarian government being better than democracy is if the authoritarian government had like somewhat like infinite information, or like it knew everything, so that it could prevent, or at least it knew a lot. It was an incredibly like that's probably an AI or something. Like it's this very knowledgeable, wise machine that the chances of it making a decision that tanks the country would be incredibly low. But I think right now with like just human leaders, with all the biases that they have, all the personal issues and like emotions and everything, like the idea of one country being ruled by one person, and that one person's judgment, like even if that person is incredibly intelligent, like they're bound to make a mistake, and the whole country has to reap the repercussions of that mistake. It's not just like they pass a bill, but then that has to be looked over by 100 other people, right? It's like they can just make the decision, and then the whole country has to reap the consequences of that.
I'd say though, if you're protecting against that, anarchy is the best form of protection, because no one individual has enough power. Like even in a democracy, you get these really rich oligarchs who can pretty much control things. In an anarchy, that doesn't happen because people are just bound.
But I feel like anarchy is like I feel like if anarchy is like anarchy for me is like it's just a log floating in the sea. It's like aimless. It has no direction. It'll get pushed in one way or the other, but ultimately there's really no way to control where this is going.
Where does
democracy is like a sailboat. Like you've got some control over it. You can't make huge pivots and turns, but like you've got control over this and you can go. And authoritarianism is like a speedboat. You can go really fast, but it can get out of control quickly, and it can really end in a disaster. And so I feel like democracy is a good medium between both of those options, which kind of allows for human progress and like some objectives from people in power, but at the same time, like, is it just so wildly out of control and dominant, right?
I believe with democracy though, you're talking about avoiding big mistakes, like with the authoritarian government. I think the majority can make those big mistakes. I mean, think about the the tragedy of the masses. It's a phenomenon we see where everyone wants to preserve themselves over everyone, and so they vote accordingly or they act accordingly. So that brings us to things like the environment, where nobody wants to create laws that help the environment, right? Because they don't benefit themselves economically. So we have a bunch of people, the majority of people, they might recognize that something like climate change is a problem, but as a whole, we're not doing anything about it. With one person in control in an authoritarian government, we would have a lot more power to do that. And if we have someone that knows what they're doing, is an expert as an authoritarian leader, I would honestly rather trust that one person to make all the decisions over everyone.
But the tragedy of commons is solved through like coordination and like property rights. It was in my economics class we studied it, and
global warming
the situation exactly. But in theory, you solve the tragedy of the commons through assigning fishing permits or licenses and like property rights. Like that's how you solve a lot of those coordination issues. So like in a way, like in the anarchy, you have the tragedy of the commons, and people would deplete it, and people would be like the overall like total welfare of the town would be like, it'd be worse off ultimately, and everyone else would be worse off. But in some sort of a government, an authoritarian, I think democracy can also accomplish this too, where people would come together and actually like look at the facts and coordinate their decisions and assign particular, whether that's licenses or property rights to people. They can prevent against those.
But there's some things you just can't, like the air, the atmosphere, pollution. Like
there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of models that have been developed.
But I think on a more broad scale, what he's getting at is the idea that if you compare it to a sailboat and a speedboat, The problem is not that the sailboat's going to crash into something, it's that there's going to be a storm that comes, and the sailboat's going to be caught in the storm, the speedboat's not. Like, the democracy just moves so slow that some other external event can cause it to fall. Not that it necessarily makes the wrong decision, but it doesn't act in time.
But then I would say, like, I mean, I guess, like, take historical precedent, for this case. I mean, I think that a lot of times, like, I think, like, kingdoms and countries have fallen, not necessarily because of oh, there was a storm that came by and they were unable to weather it. But a lot of it was just that their boat was already so, like, just destroyed and a mess, and that they just were taken out by this. I think, like, democracy ensures that your domestic affairs are kept relatively in check, and that nothing too radical or unexpected happens, so that the country couldn't organize and come together to fight whatever that storm is. Like Rome, like, yeah, sure, it was invaded by the barbarians, but, like, it wasn't really the barbarians that ended Rome. It was Rome that ended itself, all of its civil wars and infighting. And I think, like, an authoritarian regime, like, because the authoritarian can make these sharp turns and really take the country, I mean, and ultimately, like, people will uprise if that happens. There could be a lot of chaos there. I think if people feel that their voices are at least being heard, and they don't feel like the country is, making these disastrous turns that they have to protest and fight and rebel against, I think the country is going to be a lot more stable. And so when a storm or a war or some sort of calamity happens, they're in better shape to be able to combat it.
I agree with you about historical precedent. I just think that we might be in a time when it's not as relevant anymore because we're moving so fast, with AI, with the internet. I mean, all of this technology has occurred within the last 50 years or so. We've made more innovation in the last 50 years than we've had in the past 5,000 years. So it's really kind of a new phenomenon. I mean, what if...
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah.
Because I think the AI question is fair. I would bet on democracy to do it right. But I would say that I would agree that it's definitely a new challenge. But I think it's not a challenge that democracy can't handle. I think it's just a question of, like, whether American democracy or Americans will be able to handle it. Like, there's plenty of democracies around the world that are not American democracies and are functioning quite well. They could be able to handle this. The question is, will the American democracy be able to handle it?
Do you think the transition, the most likely form of government is going to be like an AI that is able to handle government operations?
I feel like ideally you'd have, like, some sort of a democracy where, like, the people still have a voice in how decisions are being made. It's not just an AI making the decisions for them. But I think the AI, I think the issue always, I think, with governments has always been, like, acquiring information. Does the government have enough information on its people to make the correct decisions? Does it have enough data? Ideally, I feel like AI would be used as, like, the government worker that's, like, acquiring this data and information on people to be able to make the right decisions about where to spend the money, what streets to police more, what streets to police less, all those types of things. Like, I think if the AI could help inform the decisions, that would be best.
But they also have to, inform it, I guess, as well, because after you acquire the data, you also have to analyze it, parse it. Humans can't do that. So the AI would have to do that, give their recommendation. But I feel like the government officials will start to rely on that because it's so effective.
They will.
One thing I see, though, is that, have you heard of, like, AI alignment? The idea that you have to give the AI a set of values. Perhaps democracy can be used to do that. Like, people could vote on what its values are for the next 4 years.
No, it's gonna be, the general mean will not be the pursuit of knowledge.
You're just talking about an AI being an elected official. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but like a sole authoritarian. Like if an AI was president, but every 4 years it was always president.
Well, no, because I think the idea of democracy is you protect against the tyranny of a majority, right? So you have to have some type of legislative, branch that's, like, working to check whatever the president's doing.
But that's because presidents are fallible, they're human. What if this AI just has all the information, makes the best decisions?
Yeah, but if you have the majority of people, like, if 51% of people think it should be one way and 49% of people think it should be the other way, that 49% of people are, like, they might suffer because they have literally no representation in government.
And what does our current government do with that problem?
Well, I mean, I think right now our government's not working nearly as well as it should, but I do think that in the House and in the Senate, you have people who are at least roadblocks to whatever agenda the current administration wants to do, right? And even if they're not as effective, they at least slow the process down.
But that's the problem. If you protect against the tyranny of majority, then nothing gets done. Because say 60% of the population.
But you also don't have a situation like Nazi Germany where people get rounded up into camps.
I mean that's true, but nothing gets done either. It's just a stagnation. You know, in some ways that could be worse. It's like rotting.
I mean, I think Europe would say that having an authoritarian, Germany was far worse for them because ultimately their entire, Europe, was a complete mess. It was complete destruction.
I mean, it's interesting to note though, the Nazi Party wasn't in majority for most of the time. They were a minority.
But once Hitler became chancellor,
They still didn't have 50%. It was 51% of the population. They were still.
But he assumed, it doesn't matter. But he assumed an authoritarian role.
But you're saying that the tyranny of the majority is what caused that to happen. I'm saying that it was just their willpower. They were able to be.
Maybe not the tyranny of the majority, but take on a deeper level. The idea that there's no contrasting voice in government.
See, but they were a democracy. Shouldn't they have protected against that?
That's the issue. That's the whole idea of government. Is like people have to respect the rule of law.
Yeah.
They have to respect the documents that are supposed to control them, right? And if people, sure, if our government decided right now to just completely throw it out the window and just do whatever the hell they wanted, yeah, that would be a failure, right? But the idea is that you respect the documents because the documents are like the people.
But you're saying that democracy is great because it protects against things like Nazi Germany. But Nazi Germany came from a democracy.
Sure, and I'm not saying that you can prevent every government. I'm not saying the best form of government is completely foolproof against turning into something sour.
Yeah.
Like it's humans. You can't control humans. You can't constrain them. But I'm saying at least I judge the best form of government as the core systems and ideas of democracy, not necessarily how that is implemented, right? I mean, sure, Germany was a democracy, but they were also just fought a war. They were in economic decline. I wouldn't necessarily say they were a high-functioning democracy. So I think it's a bit of a straw man. And I also think that, as long as you have humans handling the government, even if it was the best, most efficient, effective idea of government to ever existed, so long as humans have free will, they can break that.
So what is the problem with the AI government?
I don't find a problem with the AI government. I think people just will want the final decision made by AI. I think they'll want the AI to inform politicians of the decisions.
Even if it's just a figurehead?
I mean, the humans are. If the humans are having this super powerful AI that knows practically every stat and everything, they're gonna rely on it nearly 100% of the time.
They will. I just think that the majority of people will want a human presiding over it.
Just
or
a
at least,
figurehead.
yeah, or because AIs aren't always the most. They don't really have emotions.
Yeah.
And I think there's also the idea of all the AI systems right now have a lot of biases, and they're not benevolent. They're not all knowing. I think that's going to be the narrative for the next several years. It's going to be about the biases that they have and people exposing that. And I think people will be very, very cautious to just say, okay, yeah, let's just make whatever AI model this is the next form of government, right? I mean, and humans have biases too. That's very true. But I think that since we're all humans, there's empathy and sympathy we have for one another and understanding. The idea there's this machine that has all the biases of a human making the decisions for you. A machine you can't lobby, against or whatever.
Yeah. That's gonna be a problem. Lobbyists will not like it.
Yeah, you can't lobby. I mean, and then if you make the AI, it's essentially okay. A lot of it will eventually, I feel just collide with. Oh, you're just gonna make this AI another human? Are you gonna try to program them to be exactly like a human? If that's the case, just take the human.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna make the AI just far superior and smarter. And if that's the case, then I think people are gonna have a lot of issues with that.
I don't think it would be voted into power though. I think what's happening with the military, no one is it's not even going through Congress, the idea that we can use AI in this. They're just getting contractors that do the job better. And those who do the job better use AI. And I think it would be the same with this. Even in the legal sector, they're starting to use AI. I saw some AI lawyer or something in a court case, and it's just going to slowly become better than the normal job. So I think politicians will start relying on it just because it's better to use.
Exactly, I agree. But I do think it'll be a while until we won't have like human leaders. I think people are not gonna like worship the computer. It's too dystopian.
I think it'll be interesting. There will be a point where you're voting for a politician, but it's a politician representing an AI. So it's like I'm voting for Donald Trump representing Gronk AI versus this other politician that's representing an AI.
Yeah.
So you wait.
But do you think it'll be like? Do you think like the politicians will have like different like AI like models, or do you
Of
think?
course, yeah.
I think it's gonna be just like.
They'll be funded by these giant like corporations. It'll be like a battle of.
I feel like they'll just be relying on AI for like information and data, and like it's not you're not gonna be able to like pinpoint like like candidate A is aligned with like AI A and candidate B is AI.
I mean, I think it'll be able to do that.
I think it'll be more like what they're saying, but it'll be like advised. Like candidate A is advised by this AI. You know that candidate A will make their own decision, but the information that's presented to them will be given by this model. And each of the models are going to be kind of different, right? Like ChatGPT is more of a liberal model, Grok's more of like they say truth-seeking, but it's like conservative, basically. And I think these like different models, like he's right, the companies will start to like really fund the campaigns if you say, hey, use our model to advise you instead of this.
I think you'd have like political AI makers, like you'd have political people who are like making the AIs, like political AIs that like are programmed with a particular like worldview.
Yeah.
But I think even though like, but there's like even more like high power. But those would still have to take from other AIs that have more like high powered like data, like process.
Because Colin, here's the thing, right? Like you were saying, we were asking what's the best form of government, and you made the point that the best form of government is only based on your value system. So what do you value? Do you progress? Do you value traditions? Do you value individual liberties? And the AI is going to be the same. You know, it's not going to have an objective measurement of the best form of government or the best decision. It's going to have to do it based on values. And if there's certain models that are encoded with these values and certain models that are encoded with these values, and they align more with the politician's going to choose the one that aligns with them, right? For their information.
I think yes, and I think they would have to. I think it would be during election transparency thing that they have to list what AIs they've been using to advise the policy making. Now it's probably happening in a very informal way, but I think when it grows, it'll have to be a more formal disclosure. But yeah, I don't see democracy crumbling under AI.
You worked in Congressman Ami Bera's office, right? Like, do you see a lot of people being able to be replaced with an AI? Like, Ami Bera could use an AI. Could he replace most of his staff?
Well, a lot of the staff does like casework, so they're like people will call in the office with like an issue that their office can like seemingly resolve, and a lot of people will be like an issue with like a visa, some immigration thing, a housing thing, getting some type of government benefits usually like, and I think a lot of that is a slogfest because the systems are like really antiquated, and they're a lot of times the workers it's weird, like they're also. The offices are like understaffed at the same time, like overstaffed. Like people just aren't very efficient, and there's just it's very difficult to retrieve information. So I think the entire government could be just streamlined with AI. Like I think the bureaucracy and everything, the elected leaders, the ones drafting the bills, not as much. But I think like the hated people in the background.
That's another question I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion on. The bureaucracy. It wasn't meant to be this powerful according to the Constitution. Like, it's just grown over the years. Should we have this big of a bureaucracy?
What is the bureaucracy?
So, like, non-elected officials, like the FAA, for example, they manage our flights, they put up regulations. One guy in the FAA is appointed by, like, an elected official, but everyone else is just hired for a job. But they still have a massive impact on the rules that go up, the regulations.
So you're saying the original Constitution wanted more public voting for elected
Yeah, like
officials?
elected officials. Like the bureaucracy was supposed to be a smaller thing.
But I think that the Constitution couldn't have predicted that, like the way the country would grow, just how complex it would get. Like they could have never known that we needed an FAA. And like that's just they could have never predicted that. So I think it's just because the country is so complex, you just at least before artificial intelligence, you just need that level of manpower to be able to do that. You can't have an elected official gutting the entire bureaucracy and replacing it with all new people.
Should we have the bureaucracy be elected?
No.
Why?
people won't even read the bios of the two presidential candidates. They're not going to read the bios of hundreds of people who are going in. Someone who's the secretary of whatever office. It's like, no, I mean, they're just.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, even I don't want to just spend most of my day researching candidates.
Yeah, if you're spending, like the election happening, you spend the next election researching the next candidates. I also think it's good to have I'm not saying like, oh, bureaucracy is all good, but I do think like a lot of these people are like experts in their areas and they know it very well. And a lot of them happen to be more nonpartisan because I'm appointed by partisan leaders. I think it's been sort of made out to be worse than it really is. Sure, it's inefficient. There's ways to streamline it, but at the end of the day, like a lot of these people are just. The funny thing is, like the bureaucracy is really just made up of average American people that are we actually sort of need their voice. We kind of need their insight in government more than like high up politicians. And there are also people that like they've studied the issues. They've worked in those offices for a while. They don't really have they don't have a lot of like personal gain in it, at least. I don't know. I think it's been one of those issues that politicians have used to just capture like anger and basically just turn up the votes. You know what I mean?
Are people like angry about how much power the bureaucracy has?
People are very upset about it, but I think a lot of it has just been kind of fabricated. I think a lot of it is just like people are really upset with. I think a lot of like economic issues. I think they're also upset with alignment of political parties. But they don't really know that, and so the politicians are just saying, "Oh, it's the bureaucracy. I'm against the bureaucracy." People are like, "Yeah, I'm gonna vote for that." But I don't think the bureaucracy is really the enemy. Actually, I think the enemy is actually the ballot and like the people who are being elected and the people who are serving and like are also. I think the enemy is also the corporate interests and all that stuff.
And all the voters.
Yeah, and if the voters are stupid.
Yeah, so like everyone's the enemy essentially.
But it's not the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy
There
is
is no end.
the bureaucracy are just like they're not elites. They're middle income people that are working, majority of them, and they're not trying to they don't have some there's all the conspiracies that there's some sort of coordinated attack plan. They're not. I don't think they are. I don't think
What I'm really curious about is the future of political parties. It's not going to be liberal and Republican in our lifetime. There's definitely going to be a change of the main political philosophies that people go to, whether that is 2, 3, or 4.
I think it already has changed, though, right? The Republican Party in 2012 when I was in kindergarten is not the Republican Party now.
Wait,
that has done.
really? Wait, tell us how it's changed.
I mean, it's the fundamental shift. I mean, 2012 it was like neoconservatism. They're running Mitt Romney. It was all about being fiscally conservative. A lot of them were it's like war hawks more. I mean, these people now, Trump's gone back on some of this, but now the Republican Party is it's very different. I mean, they're isolationists, they're protectionists, tariffs. That's totally against the free market strategies of the Republican Party. That's something actually more the Democrats would have imposed. They're now somehow, at least under Donald Trump, they're now the party of the middle class, the working class.
Yeah, very odd.
It's very odd
What?
switch. It used to be all for. It used to Mitt Romney was he was the business interests, the free market, capitalist, the libertarian. Trump's now law and order and sending military to the streets, right? That's a fundamental shift. The Republican Party's going through a fundamental shift in our lifetime.
Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is just
It's just kind of, it's wavering. It's wavering. They don't know quite the
they
direction.
don't know. They're in
Where is
identity
the
crisis.
Where is the Democratic Party going?
Identity crisis.
Identity
No, no.
crisis.
Well, they're gonna go where. Well, I think that's a great question. I think, with Donald Trump now in his last term,
Maybe.
I feel like this.
his last term. Steve Bannon would say otherwise, but
I feel like the next Democratic candidate is gonna be really interesting, or a shift somehow. Cause Joe Biden felt like the old representative the Democratic Party, but
Yeah.
he was so like middle leaning. He
Yeah.
was so like
They need to take a stance. That's the problem.
Yeah,
They
they
have
need
not been
to-
taking a stance.
Exactly. I think they need a leader that is someone who's. I think people. There are certain things. I think there are certain like political climate factors that led to Trump, and then there's certain just characteristics about Trump that were successful. And I think one of those, of course, was his direct communication with the people. And I think people really do appreciate that in a larger country to have that direct communication. And I think kind of the old guard of like political customs, I think people are kind of upset about. And so I think like I do think like if the Democrats were to run someone, I think they really just were to get back to like what they were 100 years ago, which was like the party of the working class, social safety net for people, protecting workers' rights, lowering taxes for workers and increasing them on wealthier people, demonizing the elite and the rich. Not saying this is all right, I'm saying that's
what they need.
bad. If they got a candidate that did that and didn't call themselves a socialist like Bernie Sanders did, then I think maybe they would have a better chance.
And I think the problem is that like FDR and like Trump and like Hitler, all of them, they don't meet the voter where they are. They try to sway the voter to their side. Like Trump, for example, he in 2016, he did not meet the voter where they were. He didn't say, I have these ideas because you have these ideas. He said, I have these far out ideas, and he made points using demagoguery, using fear, using hate mongering, and those points drew the voters to him. And the Democratic Party just doesn't do that. They don't make points to draw the voters. They meet them where they are.
Exactly. That's why they have all these different. You're completely correct. It's a great way of saying it. It's like that's why they have all these different interest groups that they have to cater to. They're like, okay, we gotta throw something in there for the Latinos. We gotta throw something in there for the blacks. We gotta throw something in there for the gays. They throw all these things that they have to throw into because they've got to capture all these little groups, like eggs on Easter. And I don't think people want to feel like they're being manipulated, or they're like they don't want to feel like that the politicians are trying to read their mind and they're trying to. I think people want to feel like okay, this politician has a vision, and I'm along for the ride. And
it's like one through line. If you have one through line, that's it.
Yeah, but I do think Trump did tap into the Tea Party movement that was happening. After the recession, this idea that the government was spending too much money, and he tapped in a lot of that Tea Party movement. He really was the Tea Party candidate.
You think that's where the isolationism came from?
Yeah, he really was the Tea Party candidate. But the isolationism was, but I think especially like this whole idea of like the government is spending too much. I think all those ideas. I think he really was the Tea Party candidate, and he's run as the Tea Party and the Republican Party.
What do you mean by Tea Party?
There was this movement after the recession. You had like Occupy Wall Street. And then you have like all these people upset with the Obama administration's policies after the recession and like bailing out these banks and spending a lot of money on people. And there was a concern about the budget, the deficit. And there was this whole like fiscal conservative movement led by like Rand Paul.
Fiscal means like economic.
Yeah, where like the government is going to spend any more money, the government's going to conserve their money and all these things. And Trump really tapped into that, especially as a businessman. And they just ran the Republican Party and just made the Republican Party. So
it didn't end up happening, did it? Fiscal economic.
Not in his first term. This term, it's more so. Like the tariffs, all the Doge. Like he's trying, but it's not.
And his bill is not fiscally conservative.
Oh yeah, the BBB.
What are we conserving money for? The debt.
GDP.
The debt, basically.
The debt.
They just think we're spending too much. Like we're taxing the average person too much. We're spending too much, and
it's making inflation go up too.
Exactly. Like they think that's the biggest problem, spending on the economy. I'm curious on another topic though. What do you guys think about corruption in not America, but in kind of like developing countries? How can we help avoid the cycle of corruption? Because oftentimes it is a cycle, right? There's one politician that skims from the top, they're deposed by another politician who skims from the top, they're deposed by another politician who skims from the top. Corruption is a cycle in many of developing countries. So what's the best way to kind of avoid that?
Corruption. I think corruption happens like during the campaign and then happens when they're also in office. You know, like companies buying the politicians off. I mean, I guess historically, Congress has always, been supposed to be like the oversight with the president.
But I mean, in developing countries, like, how do you stop a cycle of corruption?
I don't completely understand why a cycle of corruption in developing countries.
Like, let's take the
Latin America.
Yeah, like Latin
Just
America.
continue.
Like Latin America, or like developing countries in Africa, like the DRC, like basically, or Burkina Faso. You know what happens is there's one like really popular politician who rallies everyone up, and they seem to be doing really good and good for the country, and something comes out that they're like really corrupt, like they've been taking like billions of dollars away from the economy, and then they get deposed by their military. There's a military coup, they kill him. Then the military leader becomes their president, and they start doing stuff, and they take a bunch of money from the top, they get deposed by their military, and then this just keeps happening. Like, the reason corruption continues in these countries is because people have become politically apathetic. They don't care that people are corrupt anymore because they don't know anything else. Like, they haven't seen a politician who's not corrupt, and everyone else before them has been corrupt, so why not just keep the cycle going, you know?
Continue, you go.
Almost just seems like corruption is a part of human nature.
But it doesn't happen here, or like in Europe, you know?
I mean, what is it not?
I think it's respect for
They're a
all.
politician.
They need an anarchy. Because that's what they need.
I think really what it is like, and my class talked about this a lot because it was like we're talking about like erosion of democracy. I think a lot of it is, okay, think about it in America, right? Like if it came out that like the politician was like vastly corrupt, like they'd lose the next election.
Yeah.
You know, they'd lose it, and so they get worried about it because the people are their boss, and the people will fire them. And I think the issue in all of those countries is I think that there is not the concern that the people will throw them out of office. I think they're not concerned about that. They're like, if the corruption comes out, they believe they can still maintain power, and they believe the people are not powerful enough to push them out of office. So I think it's about like how do you strengthen those electoral processes where people can like throw out their leader. And the leader then feels the pressure to be someone who isn't corrupt and someone who listens to the people. That's my thinking about it.
So then would something like interventionism help, where if a leader is corrupt, the US deposes them?
No. I think it has to be the people.
But how do you get the people to want to do so?
Yeah, I wouldn't care at all. Like if there's a corrupt leader, and I guess I would care, but I'd be more focused on my own pursuit and survival. Yeah, survival when it really comes down to it. It doesn't.
I mean, we have the judicial branch for a reason, right? Like,
But
they're supposed to act when they find out that the president does something illegal.
I mean, but in these countries, like a lot of the times, even the judicial branch is corrupt. Like the judges, they get paid off. You know?
That's true. And so, and the people are the ones electing the judges.
It's very difficult, I think, to come back from that. I think once things are corrupt, it's very difficult for the country to reform. Unless you get a politician that comes in there and makes a deliberate effort to avoid those temptations and strengthen democratic processes and rule of law, I think it's very difficult to do that.
You know, it's interesting. That actually happened in India with Narendra Modi. The new
But he's also corrupt.
No, he's not
Never corrupt, but he erodes democratic
He's an
processes.
authoritarian. He's not corrupt.
Yeah, he's not corrupt, he's authoritarian.
Yeah.
And him, what's the funny though, but him actually eroding those democratic norms will allow some other leader to come into power and be corrupt.
Maybe. He's interesting though. You know he's celibate?
Is he?
Yeah, he says, my one and only marriage is to the nation. That's it. Like, he's really, really committed.
Yeah, he's a real populist.
I respect that.
No, but I think a lot of the times in India now, it's less of that high level corruption. Like, there used to be so much corruption. Like, every single presidential or prime minister nominee would have some sort of corruption on their record. It would come out scandals about them. That would happen with every single congressman too. It was very widespread. But now that he's elected, that's not happening on the high level anymore. It's more that low level where police will take bribes and stuff like that. And that's interesting though. How do you stop that? Like the low level corruption.
I mean, that's that big of a deal that you have to stop that.
But like our police don't ask for bribes. It's like it's safe, Like we
If
don't.
I offered enough money, the police would take a bribe.
You think?
It's just the amount of money needed in India is lower.
Very true. That is very true. People are more desperate in India, economically. I think people here are more well off and they're paid well, right? If you're paid well, you're like, well, it's not worth it to me. Like my willingness to take this bribe and potentially lose my salary.
Marginal return.
Yeah, it's just less, right? Like, so I offer someone $300. Like, why? Why would I do that? Why would I risk that? And I think, yeah, it's a great point, Kyle. It's like people are there just less desperate. So then I think the question then becomes like, well, is it easier to root out political corruption if the country's better off economically? Our economics at the center of this. Like, if politicians are just better off in the first place, then they just have less of that inkling to take the bribe. You know what I mean? And then you couple that with like strengthening democratic norms, and I think you get like a more like pure government.
I agree. I think economics is at the center.
Economics is definitely a huge part. Like, yeah.
Interesting. I have another question. Reform or revolution? What is the best method to get things done?
Like effectively, revolution.
Why is that?
It's always gonna be faster if it works.
Huh.
I mean, you're trying to break the system,
Yeah.
right?
Wait, what would reforming do?
You change the system.
Like
No,
how
it'd be
rules.
so much slower. Yeah. I mean, a good revolution would have a mix of both. Being able to work the system and remake the system.
And it's also dangerous, like, Colin was saying, like, the democracy keeps us from complete disaster. We have a revolution that does not work, like Hitler, for example, is trying to create a revolution under bad motives. Could be very dangerous, but very efficient too.
Have you heard of Huey Long?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard of Huey Long? How have you heard of Huey Long?
He was in my class. We studied
Really?
together for a week or so. Yeah. It's a case study. Yeah. Huey Long.
That's cool. Did you watch the documentary on it?
No, but we watched like a speech from him.
He is my favorite American politician.
Of course.
Wait, what's he like?
Who's Huey Long?
Wait, let's
You
hear
should probably
Colin's
know more.
perspective. Let's hear
No, you should probably know more.
No, I want to hear.
I don't think he's not like a necessarily bad person or anything.
Yeah, he was great.
He just had kind of like this populist,
Authoritarian.
semi-authoritarian
Very
mentality.
authoritarian.
You probably know more about him than I do.
I have a picture of him on my wall, like since 7th grade. He's a very interesting guy. He was this Louisiana senator, basically, and he was the first kind of democratic socialist in Louisiana, and he really rallied up the people. He got them passionate about spreading the wealth. And this was a time of segregation. So the Ku Klux Klan was active. There was like rampant like conservatism all across the country. He was like this one figure who would really stir up the audiences for spreading the wealth. His motto was "Every man a king, no man a crown," and he was very interesting. And he got elected as governor. And as governor, he was like really authoritarian. So first of all, every single government employee subscribed to automatically part of their paycheck would go towards his newsletter. And it was basically like propaganda about him and like his style of governance. And they'd all get this and they'd have to read it. And part of their salary went to like this thing called a rainy day fund, which is like his treasure chest in case anything bad happened.
So it's for him personally?
Yeah, basically. But he also used the National Guard to kind of authoritarian to put down riots and stuff. He was a very hardcore fella. And I strongly believe if he was not assassinated, he would have been the next president, and he would have been the president for life. I do not think
He was that powerful.
he was extremely powerful. He was really charismatic too. He was
What were his beliefs? What was his vision?
Like
Just spreading
democratic
out.
socialism. Yeah. Like
yeah, he was a left-wing populist. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we need one of those in the Democratic Party nowadays.
We need a Huey
Not
Long.
authoritarian, but someone who's more about democratic socialism.
An authoritarian is so strong though. It's such a good leader. It's like someone you can stand behind.
Not
Versus
when they
someone
t-
who's more
Not when
like
they decide.
passive.
Not when they decide that they don't want you in the society, and then you're gone. You're just
Like if Griffith doesn't like you.
yeah. If authoritarian doesn't like you, you're out.
Well, if I
Let's
trust
go.
my authoritarian leader and if he wants me gone, like if he's
Then
making the
no.
best decision.
What if you don't trust your
no,
authoritarian leader?
That would
I don't
be
trust a lot of
poor.
people.
That's the
Some
issue.
people I trust, some people I don't trust.
I have a hard time imagining like a strong democratic leader in the state that we're in now. They have so many like contradicting beliefs and how they're trying to please
Like
everybody.
democratic, like the system or like the party.
The party having a strong politician.
Do you think Newsom's strong?
I don't know very much
No.
about this.
People hate Newsom.
No, Newsom is not strong.
He's not charismatic. He doesn't have a.
I've heard people say other things.
What do people
Kind
say?
of-
Those are the moderates. I strongly believe those are the moderates who think Newsom's a strong candidate because he's a moderate.
No, I like what happened with LA, and he kind of took on Trump.
How's that going for him though?
I've heard people say that. I've heard people. Well, I mean, lower court said that it was illegal what Trump did, and they appealed it, and the higher court said it was fine what Trump did.
Higher courts.
So I mean, I don't know. Interesting.
I think you really have to have a charismatic person though. Newsom's not charismatic.
Interesting.
I
feel
never
like
hear
when people
people
say
talk
that he
about Newsom.
He is. I've seen some of his speeches. He's no Ronald Reagan. You know, like Reagan, you can hear.
Yeah, well, Reagan was one of the more. Yeah, he's hard to compare to Reagan. Yeah, interesting.
You just don't see strength and belief. You know, like I think that's the problem with him. He makes contradictory things. Like he had these like a dinner with this oil lobby during his lockdowns while he was talking about environmental policy. Like he's just a
Yeah.
contradictory person. I think people see that. They don't see him as a strong, principled man. I think he
I just don't
needs
think like the like elite democratic class sees it that way. Like I told my professor, Steyer, Jim Steyer, brother's Tom Steyer, and I told him like his brother's like the biggest Democratic donor.
Yeah.
And I told him I was like, yeah, I think a lot of that people see Newsom as like corrupt, and he was like, really? People really? Like they're just so disconnected. A lot of people.
Yeah, because it's this elite, kind of people in the Democratic.
So that's interesting. I don't know. I like to hear people's opinions on it. I think it's very, very.
I mean, even someone like Bernie Sanders. There are examples of like recent Democratic candidates that have had a vision and have sold it pretty well. It turned out too extreme in cases like
See,
Bernie.
I don't think it was too extreme. I think people say it's too extreme, but if he really had a chance to run with his policy, if he really was supported by the Democratic Party, I think he could have made a huge dent in the nation.
Okay, but he wasn't supported by the Democratic Party because they viewed him as too extreme.
But I think during that period of time, the Democratic Party was more stable. It was less lost. Now it's lost. It's unstable. Now, if he came again, if there was a person like him who ran, I think they would be so desperate they just chose that person as their nominee.
That would make sense. Like Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump would be so.
It would be interesting. I think he would definitely convert more of the nation towards democratic socialism. It does more good than harm, in their opinion.
Who's a better president, Rasheed?
I think that he shot himself in the foot by calling himself a socialist. I think that was
That
really
makes-
stupid.
yeah.
A
Like I think if he would just given his ideas and not call himself a socialist, people would have been fine. But Americans are very afraid of socialism.
Yeah.
I'm very afraid of communism.
It's
See,
that one
not
word.
the newer generation though. I'd say the newer generation is positive.
Maybe the newer
Yeah,
generation
but-
not as much, but the majority, the bulk of the American voting.
There's still a
And
bunch
the
of
people who
old
vote,
white
old people.
Americans, yeah.
Like no one wants to vote a socialist.
Yeah.
Goes against what America stands for.
Yeah, exactly. And especially a lot of immigrants, a lot of Latin American, Cuban immigrants. I talked to one of my friends at Stanford, and he's a Cuban, and I was talking about politics, and he's like, yeah, I'm just conservative, I just always vote. I always vote Republican because it's just, socialism's bad. and even he knew that he wasn't like as educated about the issues. But that's a lot of the mentality, I think. That's why Florida's been just the Red Sea.
Mm.
Are any of you leaving at 3?
No, I have to leave before 4.
Okay, I might just get, because I know Rishi probably want to stay here. I might just get Uber because I have to get back home for a meeting.
No worries. I'll use the bathroom.
Kyle, do you prefer Republicans or Democrats?
Like to vote for.
Vote for.
I don't know, man. It depends. Like someone like Kamala Harris, I just felt like her vision was so weak. Like she just appealed to so many different groups, and she's like, I'm supportive of all Americans. You know, we're gonna do what's best for everyone. And like, I don't know, someone like Donald Trump, he's very powerful because he rallied towards a certain group against certain groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want someone in power that is powerful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And wants to make change and therefore makes more change because they want to make change. But at the same time, I don't support Trump's changes, what he wants to do. It's not like moving in the right direction for the most part. So I would say I would most of the time vote Democratic, but it's not always a good candidate.
Both candidates, it's like dropping a marble into the dark. Like you have such little information about the hole you're dropping it into, or what's really going to happen. But I like a powerful leader that invokes change. Even if it is necessarily bad change, I think it'll result in good change in the end. So theoretically, if Donald Trump's the leader and he starts rebellions or taking down other forms of people and it just turns to hell, I truly believe good change will and kind of evoke at the top. So I think I would have to choose Donald Trump, not because I support his opinions, because I think it would lead to a greater good change in all, just from him breaking the system or causing.
How would that happen? I mean, well, this isn't theoretical. Donald Trump is the president, right?
Dude, he's
And
crazy.
He's already breaking
He
the
stormed
system.
the White House. It causes so many, it really makes you think about the world and the existence, and you see all these people actually taking their beliefs into action. You'll do the same, even if you have a contradicting belief. I think it will make people more doers.
More doers. You're right. Like, if people see what Donald Trump is doing as corrupt and too powerful, they're gonna have a stark change in the opposite direction. They're gonna want to take a direction in the other action in the other direction, right? So they see Donald Trump doing all these things, and they're like, "What? We hate that. We want the opposite of that." It could lead to like a more powerful Democratic contender, more opposites instead of both in the middle.
Is there any free Wi-Fi here, or is it just?
I think you have to sign in with your student thingy.
One of us can sign in for you.
Yeah.
Wait, I think I got it. I don't know how this is working, but. Oh. Okay, I guess it's.
Like, I would vote for Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump, but Kamala versus Trump, I don't know.
Bro, I don't like Bernie. I went to his rally. I saw him
Really?
speak. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I must have been.
That's great.
It was cool.
Him and AOC.
It was here at FLC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and AOC.
And AOC was here too.
Yeah,
Who's AOC?
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
I don't know.
But she was there.
She's really liberal.
Oh, she. Yeah.
Younger one.
Yeah, younger.
Yeah,
Younger.
yeah,
She was here.
yeah.
Do you know her?
No, I don't know her. No,
Oh.
but she's a big time political voice. You know.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's amazing. So how was it? How was the rally? It looked great. Like a lot of people were there.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there. It was interesting. A lot of the statements, it seemed like he was just trying to feed their wounds. They kept blaming other people for things when it was really the
Yeah.
system itself to blame.
Yeah.
And
But that's like populism. That's like Bernie's a populist. It's a lot of that.
but it just really bothered me. In the beginning of his speech, he was like, "There is no sides," and then more near the end of the speech, she's like saying which you have to choose a side to be on, or like who is the enemy. It was some statement
It's a
like
political
that.
campaign speech. It's not gonna follow like philosophical logic. You know, it's all emotional triggers and what gets
Trying to
people
get the
to.
most people.
It is
Yeah.
all, you're right, it's completely emotional triggers. It was all of these people that were just wired. They were thinking purely with feeling. You could feel it in the crowd. It
Yeah.
wasn't like these people were willing to die for this philosophy. It was more like a therapy session. Like
Political
just rubbing
awareness.
their. Is that what it normally is?
Yeah,
like?
it's usually like that. Yeah. Here, I gotta get going here. But great to see you guys. I'll see you guys whenever the next meeting is.
I'll see you, Colin.
I want you
Alright.
to read my personal essays. You're gonna really.
Oh yeah, I would love to read them. I would love
Yeah.
to help you guys out with that. Are you also doing this? Applying to, or you're already going to school at Oregon, right, or something?
Yeah, I'll go to different school in like a couple
Okay.
years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'd love to read that. You know. Yeah.
Thank you, Colin.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your meeting here.
Go
Bye.
on.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Okay, but if we did elect Trump as our leader,
Mm-hmm.
and he causes more chaos, like storming the White House,
Yeah.
do you think instead of evoking more doers on the opposite direction, would it just change the entire status quo to become more Republican? Or do you think there would be like an
No.
opposite reaction?
No, I think there'd be more polarization.
And then Trump seems like a better candidate.
Then who?
Kalama.
Kamala?
Kamala.
Kamala.
Yeah. Because we were saying the Democratic Party doesn't do very much, and Trump really instates doing. He has
Yeah.
people embody the philosophy. Because of that, you'll see actual change, people embodying their beliefs. And there may be an opposite reaction on the other side of people embodying their beliefs. So entirely, even if Trump is moving us in the wrong direction, just that embodiment may inspire the opposite side to fight back. The good would rise in that.
Yeah, maybe. It's just a lot more unstable. Like our whole economy relies on the idea that other people trust us, other countries. It's hard to trust an unstable government, but it is interesting. I actually enjoy it. It's like fun to watch, you know.
It is, yeah. There's so much polarization. It's crazy. It's crazy how much hatred there is on both sides.
And how much he's doing, you know, like there's ice raids one day, there's like bombing Iran the next day. There's it's insane.
Yeah.
Don't other political leaders really respect Trump though?
No,
They did
they did.
when he got elected.
Now, now it's they don't want to get on his bad side. So that's good. That's good. He's like a wild card, so they're afraid of him, but still.
Hey, either political candidate is just kind of a vote in like ignorance. We really don't know.
I think we have a general direction with like what the politicians want to do. They don't. Oftentimes the politicians, like we were saying earlier, their entire spiel is created to get the most votes. It could be different than what they actually want to do when they're in office, but we could also use that kind of like their speeches, their strong language to try to figure out like what their aim really is. Might be different, but there are still like the same roots, I guess. And especially once they're in office and they start acting, you can say it. You can look and point out like, oh, this is what he's actually trying to do.
Mm.
That's a good point. Like what they're conveying may not be their actual beliefs in a way. Because they have to convey to the masses. Like Rishi, if you ran for president, would you convey your exact beliefs?
No.
You wouldn't.
No.
Would it be in your
Distill it into like a specific thing and then
Do you know what you distill into?
progress.
We must make progress.
Yeah.
That would work. Why not all cosmic knowledge?
People wouldn't understand.
People are like, no, that's impossible. This is stupid. Like, how does this affect
It's
my life?
exactly. It's a lot easier to root for progress than to root for all cosmic knowledge. Like progress, you see like a utopia, you see your own life improving. All cosmic knowledge, you're just questioning why.
Yeah, progress can be applied to any person in any
It's
situation.
vague. It's ambiguous. That's what a good politician does. They're very vague.
It'd be really difficult to get elected president under all cosmic knowledge. Like, with how the world works now.
That would be interesting. I did think about running as a politician for a little bit. Even now, it's like, not maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems like you have other places you should put your.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm just thinking like, I don't need to win, I just need to run, and then people get to know Universalism because I run.
What would you run for?
It's like governor or something.
If you ran for president, would it be useless?
I could, I just, I don't know. I think it would be helpful to start off on a smaller scale.
I would vote for you, Rishi.
Thank you.
Do you remember we were at a pool party, it was like over a year ago, and everyone was like hating on Rishi. This was before I believed in Universalism or anything. And I told them I would vote for Rishi for president, and everyone was against it.
Oh, I would not vote for Rishi at that point.
No, I'm saying he's always been really smart, and your arguments were logical.
See, if I was running, I would run on all cosmic knowledge. I would run on Universalism, just to get the word out there. If I wasn't trying to win, if I was just trying to get people to look into Universalism, I would run on Universalism.
But do politics actually get that much attention? There's a ton of people that run for
I-
presidents.
That's true, but if you're in like the debates and stuff, and if you're an actual like good candidate, so I would be a good candidate, I think, because I can make good speeches. And I can make good speeches, and people will be attracted to that. So I think I can be a good candidate. The question is, what is my platform? My platform would be Universalism. I couldn't win on Universalism, but I could get a lot of people interested in it.
Yeah, that would be something to consider.
Like a side hustle, running for president as a side hustle.
Crazy.
If you were in a hive doing that, it'd be so efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on how big the hive is.
Yeah. Because then you get a bunch of people already voting for you, already saying good things about you, you know.
Would it be good to say that you're a hive mind running for president?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but if you got a hive mind as the leader, as the president, like you've already won
Yeah.
at that point. Like, you know, from there you can be open about it
Yeah.
and just say like, okay, we win. You guys can join us or die. I mean,
Or die is a crazy claim.
You know Brian Johnson's website? I looked at it. It says join or die because I mean, because that's what it is. Like you either join the anti-death movement or you die.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, because hive mind is immortality. So if you don't join, you don't get immortality. You die eventually.
Right. It's us and Brian Johnson's philosophies are very similar. I feel like his whole philosophy is that like we're at a turning point in human progress, but we don't know what that turning point is. All we know is that we should stay alive for as long as we can.
And then we
Right.
know the turning point exactly.
Right. Yeah. We can say like this is exactly how it's gonna happen.
I'm very curious that he hasn't come to the conclusion of knowledge.
Most people have. They just don't think it's possible. That's what Universalism does. It vindicates people. So, Essentially, what happens is when you're going down an existential crisis, when you're going down an existential path, most people will come to the conclusion, I don't know enough to solve this problem. I don't know enough to answer this question. But then they think to themselves, okay, I guess I'm never going to know enough to solve this problem. But if you have other people that tell you, no, we're all going to help solve this problem and therefore it's going to be possible, then you can keep that belief. It's like uncertainty. People want to be certain. People want to be comfortable with the belief that is sound, that is grounded. And this gives them that comfort. Because essentially, if you say, I don't know enough, you admit to yourself, I don't know enough, I must attain all cosmic knowledge to solve this problem, and you think you can never get it, then you have to settle. It's settled. You have to settle for nihilism. You have to settle for existentialism. You have to settle for absurdism. This is saying you do not have to settle. This is saying we will vindicate you. We will all work together so that none of us have to settle. I mean, that's why there's a group. That's why there's a name. That's why there's a concrete ideology. Otherwise, if you're just dispersed out there, if you all hold the same beliefs and no one knows that the other person holds the same belief, all of you are going to give it up.
Why does Colin think it's cringe? I feel like the symbol is so important for like, or not the symbol, the idea, the group.
Yeah.
Universalism is so important to actually make it into something tangible.
I hope my book communicates that.
Yeah, like Universalism at one point seemed cringe to me too, but it didn't bother me. It's like I don't really care about being
I mean,
cringe.
most things are cringe, you know? Most new things that impact the world are cringe. Because what is cringe? Cringe is just not following the social norms.
I didn't see it as cringe.
You
I just
never
thought it
think-
was wrong.
You never thought Rishi being like, all cosmic knowledge when we're all just chilling?
I mean, not cringe, maybe like delusional or
Delusional?
something. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what most people will think. Because if you're the only one trying to do that, it's infeasible. You're just going to be like, yeah, this guy's delusional. I'm delusional to try to get more cosmic knowledge. But if you have multiple people, suddenly it's not a delusion anymore.
Every person that we add, and every person with credibility or things built by universalism, it becomes less and less cringe.
Exactly.
It feels more real.
Yeah.
Part of why it wasn't cringe to me was because of the reputation you had.
That's good.
Like, you know? If it was like Ferris running around saying all cosmic knowledge, I would be less inclined. I don't know. Like, it was because you had the credibility that you had already done like science projects and you had great grades and you were going to this fantastic school, and if like any other person was running around saying like all cosmic knowledge, you know, I wouldn't be like, I'd be like, what? Who do you even think you are? You know? Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Credibility matters quite a bit.
That's true. Do you think credibility very much, people that are more credible, do they have less trust with people with lower credibility? Do you need to have like equal or more credibility compared to your credibility to trust them? Does that make sense?
So you're saying people with low credibility don't trust those with high credibility?
No, like if I'm a quantum physicist, I will trust other quantum physicists or people with a higher reputation.
Yeah.
Versus if a quantum physicist philosopher sat down with Rishi, he would have a lot less trust in Rishi versus, I don't know, like a 6th grader biology student sat down with Rishi.
I think that's where open-mindedness comes in. What open-mindedness is the idea that you know that everyone else has the same potential as you, is basically 99% similar to you, so you trust whatever you are open to listening to them. And so credibility, what that does is it automatically establishes trust. So if you're not open-minded, it gives them the ability to listen to you. But if you are open-minded, then you don't need credibility to listen to someone. You know, you'll listen to the person on the street drinking from a bottle the same way you'll listen to a quantum physicist. You'll be open to both of their ideas, and you'll consider it yourself. You won't let them do the thinking for you, you'll do the thinking yourself and just listen to the idea. You don't care about the name behind it, the person behind it, you care about the idea.
It's both are important though.
Yeah, both are important.
I I agree with you, but if I sat down with a quantum physicist and he told me about the pursuit for all cosmic knowledge versus a homeless man, I would think about them both, but I would give more weight to the quantum physicist's words and think about them much more deeply than a homeless man.
True, very true. I mean, because you can't be fully open-minded, you know?
What would that be?
You just have to take in all the, you'd be like an AI. Oh, the only person who could be fully open-minded is like a hive mind, because they could take in all the information possible. You have a certain amount of intellectual resources that you can put towards specific things. You don't want to put that towards, questioning the power system or the running water. You're not open-minded about those things.
Right.
You trust that the people who manage them will manage them correctly. So the way that you allocate trust has to be limited because your intellectual capacity is limited. But if you have a hive mind or something that can grow its intellectual capacity infinitely, it can be infinitely open-minded.
Would that be infinite?
Well, I mean, it could keep growing with like a server.
It
Our
keep growing.
brains can't grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are times where I'm more or less open-minded. Like if I'm doing a task, like my homework, I'm probably less open-minded versus if I'm thinking about like philosophy.
Yeah.
There's different mindsets.
Because I mean, you gotta try to prioritize which information is more valuable and more credible, right? You gotta make those predictions like weighting probability. You say like, well, if I'm being taught that there are 8 planets in the solar system, it's a straight fact, right? And it's like been observed by scientists. This is what we know. Like, you don't have to waste time thinking about like, oh well, what if there are 13 planets in the solar system? Stuff like philosophy is different.
Yeah, you can take things as ground truth.
If we go to the standard liberal and Republican that's born into it, and they adopt this philosophy by just being told it over and over, it makes no sense to me how they're just willing to accept a core belief without actually critically thinking about it and being so emotionally attached to it. Makes no sense to me. And this is like most of the population.
What do you mean?
Most people keep the political philosophy that they're told, and they get very emotionally attached to it rather than thinking about it intellectually or coming to their own conclusions. And they'll stand by it. They'll die by that philosophy. They'll sort of die by it. Why
makes
does
no
it?
sense.
Yeah.
It's just society builds that into you. I mean, your parents have the same beliefs. They're gonna want you to have the same beliefs. You're exposed to people who have the same beliefs. You create friends who have the same beliefs. The news you watch is gonna repeat that. Create the others as the enemy. I mean,
But what type of pattern recognition are they missing, or type of understanding that they're missing to break this pattern?
A lot of the times people want to stay consistent with their own character. So this has been proven scientifically in like behavioral science studies. Basically, when you have someone make an action that aligns with a specific value, they will be more likely to make similar actions in the future. So for example, like they did a sales study where they asked someone, hey, like a small favor, hey, can you put this sticker that says, I love the environment on your window? And they're like, okay, yeah, why not? So they put the sticker on. And then the next week they came up and said, hey, can you put this lawn sign that says, I love the environment on your front lawn? And they said yes, most of the time. On the other hand, if they just came up to the person and said, hey, can you put this lawn sign on your lawn that says, I love the environment? Less likely to do it. Much, much less likely to do it. Because they viewed themselves as the person that would care about the environment as soon as they put that sticker on their window. And so this action to put the lawn sign now aligns with that character. They have to stay consistent in their own mind and with everyone else's perception as well. So people are very similar to that. When they start arguing for a democratic philosophy or a Republican philosophy, if they argue it one day, the next day and someone asks them the same thing, they're more likely to argue it again because they don't want to seem like they contradict themselves. On the other hand, people who are more open-minded don't care about contradicting themselves. Like Thoreau, I believe, has this great quote that says, consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds.
the hobgoblin. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think if you get new information, there's no reason to be consistent. Like, just being consistent for consistency's sake makes no sense. If you get new information that actively is valuable, you should take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think it's also just alignment with their belief system. When people are acting in a way that goes against what they believe, it takes a toll on you. You're thinking like it adds confusion. You start to question yourself. You're like, oh, like, am I really like living the way I want to live, right? So it kind of closes them off to other options because they don't deem it as beneficial immediately.
Exactly. It's uncomfortable, and it takes intellectual resources, and people don't want to spend those intellectual resources.
It's just such a small percentage of people. It's crazy to me. Yeah.
But that's why colleges are great, because people in colleges oftentimes are actively in that process of questioning. It's like very flexible. They're learning. They're open to information. That's good.
I was so open-minded like freshman year of college, to the point where like when I talked to people, I was just so fluctuating. Right? Like I felt like I was just questioning everything. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go instead of saying like, this is where I want to go, and like being enthusiastic and telling people about it, you know? Like when people ask my major, I'd be like, oh, it's psychology, but I'm not really sure yet. I might change it, something like that. So many people in college are like that.
So many.
So many.
They don't know what they want to do.
And a lot of them end up choosing a major just for financial sake, or because it's a safe
or because everyone's doing it.
or everyone's doing it.
That's what happens at like my school, Penn, where basically so many people come in not knowing what they want to do. They're just like, they're kind of exploring, figuring things out, and then suddenly, like, the spring comes around, everyone's applying to be like a consultant or work in investment banking or work in finance, and they get scared like, oh, maybe I should be applying too, maybe I should be doing this. And then they just like, okay, I'll just apply for the sake of applying. And then the consistency rolls around where they think, oh, I did the action of applying, maybe I want to work in finance. And so it's just a string of events that pushes them towards that path. Sucks.
I mean, it'll be in Universalism's favor if we can get it bigger.
Yeah.
The idea of consistency.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
We need chapters at colleges, different colleges, chapters.
How are you going to create a chapter at UPenn?
I'm just going to create a chapter.
Wait, what?
Like, I'm going to create a UPenn chapter.
Or just
How are you
start
gonna do that?
holding meetings?
Yeah, with like a couple of people, and it'll grow and grow and grow.
Ah.
I'm trying to do that in SOU.
Do
I feel
it.
like I have a little bit of a weaker base.
I really
to
don't
go
think
on.
you do.
I think I do, but it's not impossible, but it's just more difficult. The people will be around will be less scientifically advanced, they'll be less ambitious, right?
But, yeah, there can be Universalists anyway. Like,
Yeah,
if
you
not
Yeah, they
us
just take
going to
one.
Sac State, going to FLC, like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
you'll find
Why did Max in particular make such a like he was the first Universalist other than you for a reason, right? Like,
Well, him and Colin kind of became Universalists at the same time, but he like became like a very dedicated Universalist.
does Colin act on Universalism?
His life is oriented towards it, but he thinks it's cringe being part of a movement, a group.
That's such a big disconnect. Like, you don't get the belief, you don't get the, like, reaching out a helping hand or vice versa. You don't really get to use the community.
It's like if you have democratic values and you always vote for the Democratic Party, but you don't register with the Democratic Party.
Right.
You know?
You don't get those those benefits.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other ideas about political philosophies?
No, I think that's it.
Sounds good.
All right, venture forth.
Venture
Venture
forward.
forward.
Yeah.